On today's show, Lawrence Frank speaks about several things, including more detail about the negotiations with Paul George, our guard situation, what Clipper guards could be on the move, and most importantly, Lawrence Frank says that the Clippers were disappointed that Kawhi Leonard got sent home. Who's lying? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Offseason Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, going into my 20th season as a Clipper fan this fall. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports and NBA content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. I want you to let me know what you think of the decision apparently made by Team USA, not the Clippers, to send Kawhi Leonard home. I want you to give me all your thoughts on everything I mentioned in this episode, including Paul George and the clarity on the negotiations between him and the Clippers and the guard situation for this upcoming season. And before we get into all that good stuff, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. It's the best place to get great deals last minute on tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Clipper Nation, how we doing on this Wednesday or whatever day you're listening to this, but it'll be out on Wednesday. Just want to say apologies for the timing of that last episode. I know it was really close to the ending of the third Summer League game, and I'm talking about the Clippers winning their second Summer League game, so it feels a little bit outdated. But as I said, in the offseason, you know, when I'm struggling to find content and stuff like that and still just trying to produce 5 episodes a week for you, I'm just going to take as many chances I can get when I have content fed to me to use an episode on. So I'm going to talk about the third Summer League game, and that episode will be out. I'm going to try to release it early Thursday morning, so then the whole day you can listen to it, or people can listen to it leading up to that fourth game of Summer League. But in this one, I was going to just watch the third Summer League game and recap it for this Wednesday episode, today's episode. But I thought that this news was more urgent, more interesting, and we need to talk about it. So before I talk about what Lawrence Frank said about Kawhi Leonard and his withdrawing, and I put that in quotes if you're not watching, of Team USA. So here are the timeline of the events. On July 7th, it was reported that Kawhi was a full participant at both Team USA practices. That's when we were starting to see the clips. We were starting to see that Kawhi looked good. You had a lot of Clipper fans saying, well, it's great to see Kawhi healthy, that he looks fine, all this different stuff. Then on July 10th, we heard that Kawhi was withdrawing. Shams said that Team USA and Kawhi Leonard made the decision to withdraw him from the 2024 Olympics due to game speed concerns. The official quote was, coaches said he was performing well while ramping up to full speed for the Olympics, but Leonard and the U.S. team decided his knee, which caused him to miss the last 8 games of the regular season and most of the LA Clippers' first-round playoff series against the Dallas Mavericks, would not allow him to play at the speed necessary in what's expected to be a hard-fought Olympic tournament. The Clippers and the NBA were also concerned Leonard could do further damage to his knee this summer and put his status for the start of the regular season in jeopardy when the Clippers opened their $2 billion Intuit Dome Arena, the sources said. But teams are not permitted to prevent players from competing for their countries in the Olympics, so this was ultimately a decision made by Leonard and Team USA. It's a lot to unpack. I already made an episode talking about that, though, where I was like, look, this is a good thing for Clipper fans, but also is a little concerning. What if there was a flare-up, which is what it was sounding like? You have Ty Lue and Jeff Van Gundy on the Team USA coaching staff, and of course, that's the head coach and lead assistant coach of the Clippers this upcoming season. So you're essentially getting their blessing by sending Kawhi Leonard there, and these guys are like, yeah, Kawhi's here, we're watching him, we're not concerned. and then he got sent home. So that made me think he had a flare-up, right? Game speed concerns. That lets me know that he's not 100%. So on one hand, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm like, man, sounds like he just can't stay healthy. But then at the same time, I'm like, let's not go any further risking it with Team USA, which was my original stance in the beginning. I want him to stay home and rehab and rest for next season because, I mean, every single season has come down to Kawhi being healthy or not, and he's never healthy when it matters. So then every season is just a wash and a waste of time for us fans getting our hopes up, to be honest. Now, and we've already paid the guy with that extension in January $152 million for the next 3 years. So he's essentially making $50 million a year next season for the next 3 years. That's a lot of money. It's not a max contract, but it's a lot of money. He can, I mean, he's got to perform. We got to have him healthy. Now, of course, I know Kawhi wants to play. But then, Grant Hill went and said, and Grant Hill's, on the USA committee or whatever, he said, I feel really sorry for Kawhi Leonard. So that made me think, oh my God, he's hurt. But then Kawhi's trainer, Clint Parks, one of his trainers on Twitter, said Grant Hill fake when Grant Hill came out and made that comment, right? Because he repeatedly said he feels horrible and disappointed for Kawhi. When he said that, I saw some people talking about it, but I was like, what does that mean? I don't know what you guys are saying. And then when the news came out that Lawrence Frank said that it was USAB's call. This is a direct quote, by the way. It was USAB's call, and quite frankly, I was very disappointed in the decision. Kawhi wanted to play. We wanted him to play. I was there the first 2 practices. He looked very good. Was a full participant in everything that they did. I really wish they would have given Kawhi more time. And he made a reference to, we know his body better. We've known him for 5 years. And he said it was very disappointing. So when he says that lets me know it was not a Clipper decision. That somebody's not telling the truth here. And it seems like it's Grant Hill when you have secondary confirmation, Kawhi's trainer, saying Kawhi is not in any of the this is one of his own tweets. Said Kawhi not in any of the political basketball circles, and gatekeepers don't like that. Gatekeepers at this point being either Team USA or Nike, who are hand in hand with one another. If you look up Team USA basketball and Nike on the internet, it's not even articles about their affiliation. It's just merchandise that you can buy. So that tells you the connection between Team USA and Nike. Now, there are some non-Nike athletes on Team USA's roster. So if we're thinking, why would Nike kick him off the team? The fishy thing is, why would they kick him off the team after sending him and already agreeing to have him on the team? But again, I want to remind people that Kawhi Leonard did file a lawsuit against Nike for his logo back a couple of years ago. And they still could be bitter about that. I'm pretty sure Kawhi didn't win that lawsuit, though. He didn't. But yeah, he doesn't really mess with Nike. He's, signed for New Balance. My question is, why did they send him in the first place? It's all very fishy, but it seems like USA is the scum here in this particular instance. Team USA and Grant Hill are the ones that are being disingenuous. Because usually we as Clipper fans expect that the Clippers are being disingenuous because they are about a lot of things in regards to Kawhi. But I don't know. I truly don't. The media is trying to make it seem like it was some kind of setback and an injury. I don't know. If he's not, and it's just Team USA being biased about some Nike stuff, then even better. Kawhi doesn't get to play, and he's fine, which is the ultimate win for Clipper fans. But ultimately, I keep saying that word. But in the end, I mean, I do feel kind of bad for Kawhi if he was healthy to want to play the Olympics. But again, we need him for us to win the championship. So, or to compete for something. You know what I mean? We got to at least be better than the Rockets this year because I don't want to lose our pick. I don't want to lose our pick. So we got to be better than Houston. But yeah, the moral of the story is someone's lying and it looked like it was Team USA. There wasn't a setback. There was some kind of politics involved. Why would Jaylen Brown, who won Finals MVP, not be getting called up to the team? It's not like he's such a ball hog that it's a bad fit. I just think there's more to it. And Jaylen Brown says, I don't give a damn about you or your resources. And that was clearly a shot at Nike. So, fishy business. But coming up, speaking of fishy business, I made an episode a couple of weeks ago, about a week or so ago, about Paul George and what he said on his podcast about the negotiations with the Clippers and some of the deals. Lawrence Frank gave a little bit more insight on that. Going to be talking about it coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. Game Time is the best place to get great deals on tickets, last minute, even up to the start of the event. There's nothing better for me when it comes to the summer than going to baseball games at Dodger Stadium. And wherever you may be, and if you have an MLB team or even a minor league team, it's nice to go out to the ballpark. It's super chill, super relaxing. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices viewed from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. I still haven't made my way over to Dodger Stadium yet to watch Ohtani, and I have to. And I'm going to probably go on Game Time to try to get a deal because these Dodger tickets, that Ohtani tax, it ain't no joke. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about the Lawrence Frank press conference, talking about Paul George. So Paul George has had his say. He said that he has a lot of love for Steve Ballmer, Lawrence Frank, but ultimately it was business. Now we know that before the season, apparently, according to Paul, the initial offer made by the Clippers when talking extension was 2 years, $60 million. Now, what Lawrence Frank is mentioning, because that's an insulting offer in today's market. That really is. $30 million a year for a player of Paul George's caliber. I know for some of you that have been watching basketball for a while might be like, how is $30 million a year a lowball offer? I know. It's crazy to think that peak LeBron, if you consider Miami LeBron, peak LeBron, 2012, 2013, he was making like $13 million per season. Norman Powell is making more than that right now. Like, it's just crazy. The TV deals and the inflated contracts, all that. But the point is, Paul George is definitely worth more than $30 million per year in today's market. What Paul George left out, though, was that it wasn't like he was getting on a new contract and just getting $30 million. It was, you're opting into your deal, so you're still finishing this current contract, which is you're owed basically $49 million this upcoming year. So just a little bit less than what he would be getting in Philly, like $3 million less. And then you get the extra 60. So it's really you're guaranteed $110 million. But, which makes it sound a little bit better, but if I'm Paul George, I'm like, yeah, it's still not it. So while it does make the Clippers, Paul George, moral of the story is for this segment is that Paul George did leave out some information because he made it just sound like it was a new contract starting in 2024-25, 2 years, $60 million. But it was essentially a new contract after this one expires, after he gets that last $49 million guaranteed this year. So you're essentially getting $30 million as a 35 and 36-year-old. But again, he signed for $212 for Philly. So that's almost double. That's basically double the money in that $110 million guaranteed that we're talking about. So at the end of the day, Paul George did what was best for him, and he still has an even better chance of winning a championship, to be honest. Just because Maxey, he's got that upside, and then Embiid in the regular season is so good, but Embiid has the same injury concerns as Kawhi. The only difference is Embiid, his injuries, I guess, aren't as severe to the point where he can still play. Kawhi's have been so bad that, he did try to give it a go this postseason, but it just wasn't it. He looked like a shell of himself, and he was actively hurting our team. Thing is, Joel Embiid, when he was playing, even when he's not 100%, his rim protection is really major for that team. So my point is on this is that Paul George is still in a situation where it comes down to if our star player, our number one option, is going to be healthy, we got a chance. But if not, they've got no chance. But he's still making $50 million. It's just the inconvenience was that he had to leave Los Angeles, leave where he wanted to stay. and leave his family. But generational wealth, money talks. So Lawrence Frank Paul George leaving that out. I mean, it's not the craziest thing in the world because even still, 3 years, $110 million for the next couple of years, that's not that great of an offer. But remember, that is the first offer, and that's how negotiations start. You start low. So, and again, this is Paul George having not played 60-plus games in 2 full seasons of 82 games. So, yeah. That his value wasn't as high as right now, where he just had a 70-plus games played season, and then in the playoffs, even though he played terribly, he was available for all 6 games. So that matters. But yeah, the question is, at this point, how many more episodes am I going to make about Paul George? I think we're going to have 2 more before the season starts. One, reflecting on the 2-1-3 era, why it didn't work. I'll probably have a guest on for that. And then another one is how we look at Paul George's time as a Clipper. I haven't really talked about that. But again, off season, we're looking for content. Once the summer league's over, we're gonna be searching for topics. But coming up, going to be talking about the guard situation. Westbrook, Kevin Porter, Bones Highland. Lawrence Frank made a lot of comments on them. I'm going to be talking about them coming up. All right, so right now the LA Clippers are a little log-jammed at the guard position. And Russell Westbrook seems to be on his way out. He clearly didn't like being replaced last season. How can you blame him? You basically said to him, look, we want you to start. We want you to be our point guard. He had that 2023 playoffs where he played essentially without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and still made those games competitive. And then he's energized for the following season. We do a whole training camp that seems like a Russell Westbrook-led camp, or a camp with the idea of playing by taking into account formulating the style of your team with the strengths of Russell Westbrook and Bones Highland in mind. But then we bring on a guy in James Harden who's a complete 180 from Russ. He's all skill, doesn't have that much athleticism and burst anymore. Really great on-ball decision maker in the half court. But he's not much of a transition guy, not much of a defense rebounding guy, not much of an energy guy. He's I'm going to help you guys get good shots every time down offensive engine guy, the system. James Harden undoubtedly better at this point of his career, but Russell Westbrook still feels as though, look, I'm trying to be the starting point guard. I didn't want to leave the Lakers to go back off the bench somewhere. And it was clearly rough for him. There was a lot of stories out that, he volunteered to come off the bench, which just did not seem like Russell Westbrook at all. Knowing Russ, I feel like he would want to, even after the 0-5 start with all of them in the starting lineup, I think the Westbrook that I don't know him personally, but I've known in terms of his NBA career would say, I'm still trust the process we're going to work this out together, because he is friends with Harden. I know he's friends with Paul George. He and Kawhi are cool, as far as I know, although that activity about Russ liking that post about a trade was weird yesterday. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check that out in the last episode. But it's clear that Westbrook's going to be on the move. And Joey Lynn, who we've had on this show before, one of our beat writers for SI Now, asked Lawrence Frank about Russ. And, Lawrence did the whole, Russ is a tremendous player, but, they're working on with Russ and his agency to figure out what's best for him. And then Joey, which I love this, he kind of persisted. He kind of doubled down. So he's like, so he will be not here next season or something like that. Forgot his exact words. And Lawrence was like, again, we're going to look to see what the best decision for him and his camp is, whatever. So look, he's not going to be back next season. So for all the Russell Westbrook fans that have listened to me, I really apologize. It sucks that it's ended up this way. I never wanted it to be this way. But, the Clippers, Lawrence Frank has clearly had other plans. He's never really been down with Russ. The question is, how much has Kawhi been down with Russ? And then how much did Kawhi Leonard and Paul George really want James Harden to come? That's something that I've always wanted to know, how those negotiations went, how those conversations went. Because everybody, depending on their agenda of what they support, seem to have different recollection of what was going on behind the scenes, even though not many people that I actually know and are speaking on this were actually there behind the scenes. But anyway, how about the Bones Highland Kevin Porter situation? Because if for those that are wondering, what about Chris Dunn? 2 weeks ago, that news came out that we're going to get Chris Dunn, but they're still trying to work with Utah for the sign-and trade. I know they were trying to send Westbrook back that way, but they don't want to have Westbrook back that way because Russ is not going to want to play for Utah, so it's pointless for them. It's going to get done in terms of Chris Dunn being a Clipper. It just depends because right now we have 15 guaranteed contracts, and I'm pretty sure that's not including Dunn. So we're going to have to make some room. It's either 14 guaranteed contracts with Dunn coming on or 15 with Dunn coming on. So we need to clear a little bit of space. It's very advantageous to have one open spot. So, yeah, and let's talk about what was said about Kevin Porter. So, Tomer Azarli, one of our beat writers for Clutch Points, haven't had Tomer on the show yet. We probably got to get that figured out. Asked him about Kevin Porter, right? And this is a direct quote. Shout out to Tomer for tweeting all this so I can just read it off. He said, this is Lawrence's words. First of all, look, we're obviously very aware of his history. We've studied the case. We don't in any way want to downplay or minimize or condone domestic violence, okay? The allegations are serious and they're disturbing. That being said, what we did is we hired an outside expert. We spent a couple of days with Kevin. The expert did a very thorough evaluation. And based on the expert's recommendations, we decided that it was worth an opportunity for Kevin. Now, with that being said, there's a personal development plan that he committed to back in October. And we have our own personal development plan that he's committed to, will be held accountable to. And we think based on those facts that positive change is possible and the standards will be high for Kevin. But we totally are aware of the history and in no shape or form do we want to minimize what the allegations are. And then Tomer followed up by asking, did you guys have any conversation with some of the women in the organization about bringing him in at all? And he said, no, we didn't have conversations with specific women. But anyway, so that's a lot to unpack. First off, he says, we've studied the case. We don't want in any way to downplay or minimize or condone domestic violence. So he understands that there are PR ramifications for this. Now, the allegations are serious and disturbing. And he said, with that being said, what we did is we hired an outside expert. What is this? An Inspector Gadget? Like, what does that even mean? To investigate the case? Bro, and so the public is not going to find out about this. The people that you want to invest into the team and support this guy that potentially beat up his girl, an outside expert. And we're not going to, based on the expert's recommend. So we're supposed to just trust the word of this expert, like just because you say he's an expert. Like, I don't really know about all that. We decided that it was worth an opportunity for Kevin. And if you want me to just trust the Clippers organization, hell no. This is the same guys that signed Josh Primo and didn't even play him. Why would I trust the Clippers organization? This is the same organization that lies to us about what Kawhi's status of his injuries. Why would I trust them right now? They've been moving really shady last couple of years. The same organization that promised Russell Westbrook essentially being a starter and then all summer tried to replace the guy. The same organization that tried to put out a PR spin that Russell Westbrook volunteered to come off the bench when he didn't. The same organization that told Blake Griffin they're gonna retire his jersey and then they stabbed him in the back. That's the same organization. Yes, I support this team. I will always support them, but I was supporting them before this, before Frank and Ballmer. And I love Ballmer way more than Sterling. I did not support the Clippers because of Sterling. I didn't know who Sterling was when I became a fan. But my point is, the way that Lawrence, Frank, and Ballmer have moved, I don't trust them at all. So I'm not just going to take the word of this expert. I have no choice but to support Kevin Porter Jr. as a member of the Clippers and hope for the best. But if it were up to me, Kevin Porter, Bones Highland would just be breaking out as the backup point guard, and Kevin Porter Jr. would be, I don't know. The thing is, if Kevin Porter Jr. didn't actually beat up Kyrie Gondrzick, then I have no issues with him. I actually will be supporting him big time. I think he's got a temper. The problem is he's got a history with other incidents and stuff like that. So it just doesn't look good for him. But anyway, the point is, speaking of Bones Highland, Lawrence Frank said the Clippers will look for opportunities elsewhere for Bones if they determine he doesn't have a pathway to minutes next season. Quote, if he's with us, we expect him to compete for playing time. If we don't think there's an opportunity for him, then there will be an opportunity for him elsewhere. So essentially, that sounds to me, he does not have a guaranteed spot on this coming off the bench if Westbrook leaves, which it looks like he's gonna. It sounds like Bones is going to be on his way out too. And that really, really disappoints me. Because I think Bones Highland has a future as a backup point guard in the league, being an energizer bunny that scores and creates shots. He's never going to get better at those little things, catch and shooting, defense, all this, without reps. And maybe he can't play as a backup point guard on a championship contending team, on a win-now team, which the Clippers are convincing themselves that they are still. But he's never even really had a chance besides Denver. He came here, he was our backup and looked good, and then that was it. He had his inconsistent games. That's what he's going to be. But a lot of bench players and role players are inconsistent. what I'm saying? You got to let him. He's the type of guy that when it's going to go great, it's going to go amazing. And when it's not going to be great. And then you just don't play him that much. I don't get the problem. But it doesn't seem like the Clippers have plans for Bones. I mean, I love his pace. He's a very underrated passer. He's got good hands in the passing lanes and has an ability to improve as a defender, especially with his off-ball defense and just his activity in terms of like getting steals and stuff like that. I don't ever see him being a good one-on-one defender, though. No. But not every guy that comes off the bench, like not every player in your rotation, especially bench players, are going to be great defenders. The thing about Bones is ideally he probably needs to go to a team where he can have a little bit more of a safety net and just, be able to do his thing and work through his mistakes. And the Clippers just don't, especially playing. The thing is, James Harden's going to be getting 30-plus minutes a game, right? 33-plus minutes a game next year. So having Bones Highland just play when he's not in the game for like 10 to 15 minutes every game, it's not a big deal. Now, do I think Kevin Porter is better than Bones? I definitely do. He is better than Bones. But I want to see Bones succeed because he had to wait this whole year. Anyway, I'm just disappointed if we trade the guy. He's a fan favorite. Fans have been wanting to see him out there. Just like, why are we're letting go of all the players we like? Anyway, at least I like. But anyway, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. My moral of the story there is that Westbrook and Bones are probably not going to be on the team next year. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more NBA content, talking about other teams, and of course, all things LA sports. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Let me know what you think of the episode. Let me know what you think about all the things I said in this episode. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the Summer League. Clippers going 3-0 in that. And before we leave, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.